Hello and welcome to How to Learn a Language. Yeah, the name kind of says it all. I'm Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, and I'm here to help you learn languages better, any language, any level. On this podcast, you'll get jargon-free linguistics insights to level up your fluency, practical mindset tips to tackle those inevitable learning wobbles, personal language diaries where I share my own progress and honest experiences, and an exclusive peek behind the scenes of language life. My coaching program that helps people speak fearlessly and intuitively by taking control of your learning without pressure or one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter methods. If you're ready to break free from perfectionism and finally start speaking the language you want, you're in the right place. Want to get started right away? Head to lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video for your on-demand video training. All right, let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to How to Learn a Language. Today, I'm giving you a rundown, Writing Systems 101, because it's one of my favorite things about languages. Sure, speaking's cool. It's nice that we can use sounds to communicate, but the fact that we have invented so many different ways to write those languages as well, with different symbols that may look completely new and different to us if we know nothing about it, and then to someone else can mean the world, amazing. I love that. Now, I know as well that for some people, you might be put off learning a language because it uses a different writing system. And I get it, right? I talked a few months ago about how we perceive so-called easy versus difficult languages, and writing systems often play a role in how we categorize language difficulty. So it becomes then something that we fear almost, and it really doesn't have to be. So to break down that fear, I'm going to share my Writing Systems 101 lesson adapted from the Language Life curriculum. But before we get started, if you want to write more and you want a really easy way to do so regularly, I highly recommend that you check out Promptly, lindsaydoeslanguages.com/promptly to learn more on that. All right then, chances are, if you are understanding what you're hearing right now, then you know English. And you're familiar with the 26-letter alphabet used to write English. This is commonly known as our first writing system, right? The Latin or Roman alphabet that we use for English is part of a bigger group of writing systems called, drumroll please, alphabets. No surprises there. So alphabet is just one type of writing system, right? We think about the English alphabet, the Latin alphabet, as we said, the Latin/Roman alphabet. We think about the Greek alphabet. But then what about something like Japanese or Hindi, where these languages get called alphabets, the Japanese alphabet, the Hindi alphabet, but maybe they're not really alphabets. So we'll get onto those languages soon. But first up, alphabets. So the Latin/Roman alphabet then that we use for English, this is a linear non-featural alphabet. Now there are others out there that you're also probably familiar with. So Cyrillic, Greek, Georgian, for example. One thing I really enjoy is to look at different alphabets and just see if I can spot any similarities, if there's something that I can recognize. For example, when I first learned the Russian alphabet, and this was many years ago, but what I did was I had 3 post-it notes on my wall. So I had one that was for letters that look and sound like English. So for example, M looks the same as it is in English, sounds the same. I had ones that look like English but sound different. So for example, what we think of as a H in English is actually an N sound in Russian. And then the third post-it note was for letters that were totally new to me. Now, it was really helpful to start this way because it gave me some familiarity rather than just starting from a total blank page. It actually made things connected, and I really like that. But there is another really interesting example of an alphabet that's quite unique and perhaps falls into that category of quote-unquote difficult language, and that is Korean. So Korean is what's known as a featural alphabet, arranged into syllabic blocks. You know, if you're not driving a car or whatever, just Google the Korean alphabet, see an image of what the letters look like. So you have a combination here of vowels and consonants that are individual in the alphabet. They then get combined with each other to form syllabic blocks. So for example, the word for hello is annyeong, right? The kind of short, easy one. Annyeong. Now annyeong, when it's written down, looks like 2 characters or 2 letters to the untrained eye. But really, we've got 4 different letters stacked in their syllable blocks, one of them doubling up to be a bit of a space filler. One of the letters is repeated. So we've got 6 different individual pieces of the alphabet. It's really, really cool. And it's actually really new too, as far as languages and writing systems go, only created in like the sort of 1400s. So really quite new. So with those examples in mind then, English, Russian, Greek, Georgian, Korean, they all sound like drastically different languages in one way or another. You're probably thinking, well, what do they have in common? What makes an alphabet an alphabet? Well, the distinguishing factor here is using different letters for consonants and vowels and not using diacritics instead. What's a diacritic? That leads us on to our next group. A diacritic is a mark used above, below, next to, or on a letter, specifically on a consonant, to represent a vowel. And diacritics are often, in many languages, optional to write. So our next group that uses diacritics is Abjads. And this is the thing that distinguishes them from alphabets. Common examples of Abjads include Arabic and Hebrew. And if you take a look at Arabic and Hebrew written down, you'll often notice these dots and marks above and below letters, especially with these languages in particular. If you look at religious texts, that's when you tend to see all of the diacritics. Sometimes, like I say, they can be removed. So when you see things maybe on a road sign or a children's book or something that's designed to be read kind of quickly and easily, you don't always get the diacritics written down. So I like to think of Abjads as like alphabets with a little extra flair, right? Next up then is Abugidas. Now here, they are similar to Abjads in that the vowels are also shown via diacritic markers, but the difference here is this time these diacritic markers are not optional. So Abjad, optional diacritics for vowels. Abugidas, non-optional diacritics for vowels. Languages that use Abugidas are often found in India and Southeast Asia. So geographically, if you look at a map, a lot of Abugidas are in the same region next to each other. So that includes things like Devanagari, the script used to write Hindi, Nepali, Sanskrit, among others, Burmese, Khmer, Khmer, Thai, and many others. If you search online to see Hindi, I would say is probably the easiest one to spot. See if you can spot the diacritic markers. You can think of Hindi as being written on one long washing line, and the curves above the washing line connecting to the vertical lines below, those curves, the little things underneath that you see, are indicating the different vowel sounds, and the consonants are the bulk lines that are attached to the washing line. It's a bit of a weird, kind of crude explanation, but I think when you see it, you'll see how that makes sense. And actually, there's a little interesting side note here that I find really fascinating. So the materials that people had available to write are considered to have affected the development of writing systems. If people had to carve letters into stone to write something down, the language tends to be written with more straight lines. Think about it, right? Angular Greek. If we think about Greek often being written on stone tablets and on the fronts of stone buildings above all the pillars, it's very angular. And Greek as a language now, still very angular because they were writing into stone. You can't very easily get the curves. However, if people had leaves, papyrus, paper, or they were writing with brushes, the writing system is often much more curvy. So when we think about Chinese and Japanese calligraphy, or if you see Burmese, it's so round-edged. It's gorgeous to look at. Just so many curves. And speaking of Japanese, our next writing system is Syllabaries. So this is where each letter, or grapheme to be more accurate, represents a syllable. Japanese, really popular, easy example that you can spot here. So for example, in fact, Japanese has 3 writing systems. We'll get to that in a second, but we'll first talk about katakana. So in katakana, rondon, meaning London, is represented by 4 graphemes, right? You can call them letters if you want to.
London.
That's 4 graphemes, and that's how you spell London in katakana, right? But katakana, like I said, it's not all you have to learn with Japanese. There's also hiragana, which is also a syllabary, and kanji, which are essentially Chinese characters. Which leads us nicely to our next writing system, logographic writing systems. This, as you may have guessed, is Chinese. This is where each glyph represents a whole word or morpheme. Now, a morpheme just means a part of a word that holds meaning. So logographic writing systems include Egyptian hieroglyphs, classical Mayan languages, the kinds of things that you see when you go to Tikal or the pyramids in Giza. So you might think that this is an old form of writing, but actually the most common modern day example is Chinese languages. For example, the character for wood looks a bit like a tree. And again, I recommend kind of looking some of these up so you can see, right? And then when you know some basic characters and you know what's known as radicals, you can begin to spot them in new words. So mu is tree or wood. But if we see a character that is 2 of these put together, that means woods, right? Woods. And the reason I love this example is because that is Lin. So if my name in Chinese, if I were to write it, I would use this as the first part of my name, right? Lin. And then if we have 3 of them, where we've got 2 wood, 2 trees together and 1 on top as well, that means forest. So lots of trees together, lots of wood together, we've got a forest. I love it. Chinese is such a great language to learn if you're interested in writing systems, because it's just so interesting. There's always going to be something new to discover. So quick recap then of what we've covered. Alphabets, consonants and vowels written as individual letters. For example, English, Russian, Greek. Abjad, consonants with vowels optionally written as diacritic markers, so Arabic and Hebrew. Abugidas, consonants with vowels written as diacritics, not optionally, so Hindi, Thai, Burmese. Syllabaries, each grapheme equals a syllable, for example, Japanese, katakana and hiragana. And logographic writing system, where each glyph equals a whole word or an element of a word, for example, Chinese. There's much more you can dig into, of course. This is just a 101, a little primer if you're curious about different writing systems, but you're not quite too sure where to begin. I hope this has taken a bit of the mystery away that often makes languages with different writing systems considered much more difficult than they need to be. And I mentioned this briefly at the start of the episode, but if you do want an easy, interesting and enjoyable way to write more, definitely take a look at Promptly. So Promptly is a subscription that gives you a brand new writing and speaking prompt every single week. You get multiple suggestions from me for each level, beginner, intermediate and advanced learners, and a video walkthrough with me as well. There's also quick spark daily prompts for mini moments when you get a quick chance to practice. And I just updated Promptly to include a streak tracker that magically unlocks bonus trainings when you hit streak goals. All of that for just $10 a month, and you'll never be bored with your language practice again. You can even join annually and you get 2 months for free. You can find out more and get started today at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/promptly. Thank you so much for listening to How to Learn a Language. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you're ready to take your language learning to the next level and speak with confidence without the pressure or perfectionism, then check out Language Life. You can find out all the details and join at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/LL. And if you want the first free step today, head to lindsaydoeslanguages.com/free video to get started with a fresh way to learn languages. Until next time, stay fearless, stay curious, so you can learn languages your way.